You gotta be kidding me. You're gonna risk the entire mission for a mental defective dressed as a court jester.
It's coming from a guy that wears a toilet seat on his head. We don't leave one of our own behind.
Hopefully Harley's still alive.
No funny business, Colonel. These are dangerous people.
Team 2 is clear to go.
Fire up.
3, 2.
What are you guys doing?
What?
We're here to save you.
You were gonna save me?
It was a really good plan, too.
Well, I can go back inside and you can still do it.
That's patronizing.
I'm so sorry. Harley Quinn.
Blood sport.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence. Times are hard. You fail to follow my orders in any way, and I detonate the explosive device in the base of your skull.
Can do the job for free.
So this is the famous Suicide Squad. Nom nom.
Any questions?
And
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
we're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Here's the deal. We fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
If you cough without covering your mouth.
Harley, although that isn't an open invitation for you to cough without covering your mouth.
What's the plan?
How the hell am I supposed to know?
You're the leader. You're supposed to be decisive.
And I've decided that you should eat a big bag of dicks.
If this whole beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty, I would say no problemo.
Why would someone put penises all over the beach?
Who knows why madmen do what they do?
This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
Are you worried when they get you out of here alive?
I'm going to get you out of here alive.
Oh my God, we've got a freaking kaiju up in this shit.
Uh-huh.
I don't wanna do
I love the rain. It's like angels are splooching all over us.
Right. Relatively decent preview, actually, and maybe the only allowable use of a Steely Dan song in a preview for my taste.
Yeah.
And you know, and they also allowed them to say "fuck" in the trailer, which is kind of that's
Pretty
impressive.
impressive.
Yeah, well, they got this thing called the Red Band trailer.
Yeah,
which I
Red
think that
Band.
was where they get to show like all the gore, violence, and bad language.
Yeah,
make it work. You know,
AKA the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
the good stuff. Everyone's talking about it.
Honestly, the Red Band trailers are usually the best because it gives you a better flavor of what you're going to get.
Yeah, especially for like one of the few rated R superhero or supervillain, whatever DC
movies.
comic book movies that they've been allowed to make, right? Like there haven't really been that many of them. They kind of go for the PG-13 whenever they can because
Deadpool kind of kicked that open.
Yeah.
I mean,
which
there's
is weird
Deadpool. What was Logan? Do you guys recall?
Logan
Well,
was
Deadpool begat Logan. Basically, as weird as that seems, like it was okay to make like what was Logan because of Deadpool, but not because they're similar movies, but just like the idea of making these comic movies for adults.
And Birds of Prey was rated R.
Which is also weird because like if you go back 300, Blade, and The Crow were all rated R.
Yeah, but that's before anybody knew what they were doing or that you could make money on this crap.
Yeah. True that.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't Blade really the first Marvel comic book movie?
Well, the first
isn't
good
that
one.
right? I mean, like,
yeah, if you're not counting
like,
that,
I guess Spider-Man movies were before that. I don't know, were they?
No,
See, I should have done
90s,
more research
right?
into comic book films before I came on here.
Yeah, don't worry. You're good. You got me.
This is a wild anomaly. Yeah, Andy is stoked in his way. Christina's stoked in her way, and I'm stoked in my way. And Forrest is not stoked at all. And we also
I liked it. I liked it. All right.
No, you loved it.
No, but
you were right.
I'm talking about the general comic book movie discussion.
Yeah,
I was afraid that I was going to have to put bombs in each of your guys' head, and then if we got too off topic.
Wait, am I the only one with the bomb? Like, what the? You had to detonate it for the other guest.
If you read the poster, the other guest went off. Didn't come on.
The other guests are basically
got off topic way beforehand. So I
the Michael Rooker character in the opening.
Yeah.
Who like basically he's like, yo, I'm out, and then like, yeah, we're gonna blow you up, and then they blow up.
Yeah, that was hard. It was hard to watch. It's like kind of heartbreaking because you kind of get invested in him within that like 8-minute space. Yeah. And you're like, oh, it's Michael Rooker, who I like as an actor tremendously.
Oh, absolutely. And then he rescued Weasel, even though Weasel had drowned at that point. But
even though in the very first scene,
that was his redemption.
You see him totally for no reason whatsoever kill that bird. Yeah. In the most like stylish way possible. But like you get to the point of like, oh come on, man, no, pay it. And then you're like, wait, why am I rooting for this guy? He's a dick.
Yeah, they remind you.
Oh, were we supposed to root for people in this film? I thought that was.
I was rooting for the president that Harley Quinn ends up almost marrying and then killing because I was like, yeah, take down America, take down the American empire, and
she's literally. I mean, here's the thing about Harley Quinn: she voted for Bernie. She did. She did that in Birds of Prey to piss off Roman Sionis. So like when people call her some like leftist, anti like U.S. imperialist type of person, she's like, oh, I have no idea what that means, but cool.
I do want to say this: I'm rooting for introductions.
Okay, well, this is,
well done.
This is Movie Night Extravaganza. I am, of course, Forrest Miller. I'm here to keep the peace at any cost, no matter how many of you I have to kill to do it. And I'm joined by Jay Underworld, comic book enthusiast, illustrator, artist, the works. What's going on?
Comic book professional, you might want to say?
I was going to say comic book enthusiast is kind of...
That's like a downgrade, man. Why you downgrade me on the
It's followed
like
up
I'm a
by
rock
artist.
and roll enthusiast, right?
I mean,
it's like, well, that's true, but I also play
right
rock
next
and
to
roll.
me, right here, is the issue of 100% Comics,
I said afterwards,
as a comic book fire me.
Artist, illustrator.
Yeah, but I illustrate other things too, like book covers and shit, album covers and shit like that.
Okay, well, comic book professional.
We're off to a fantastic start.
We're killing it.
We haven't even got through the introductions yet.
Also joined by rock and roll enthusiast Conan Neutron,
rock and roll
host of Return Reversal, and the lead of Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. A new music video just dropped. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Dark Passengers. Erica Strout, frequent featured guest on this show, actually did the creative direction and editing for it, and it's premiered on Scene Point Blank earlier this week. So yeah, I think we might even play it later on. Maybe I should throw it in the comments or something.
Yeah, and it is beautiful too, people. Just let me tell you, it is gorgeous.
I'll probably play it at the end of the show too to close this out.
Despite it starring me, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Also joined by Kristina Oakes. I'm Kristina on Twitch, dressed as Harley Quinn. This is the moment she's been waiting for. She's been begging for this to happen for a long time. And I said, no comic book movie.
I'm so excited for our friend Kristina tonight. This is
admit it. You guys were turned on by this.
How am I supposed to react to that?
You react by saying
when I cosplay as Harley, it's exhausting, but something just comes over me.
Yeah.
you react by saying, "I'm a married man, ma'am."
Yeah. Madam, how dare you?
And of course,
Exactly.
we're joined by Mike from PA. Central Committee is his Twitch account, frequent Majority Report caller, and you worked for them for a little bit too, right? Like,
Yeah, I was a producer on Majority Report. Also, in real politics, ran for the House in 2014, and have worked for Committee of Urban Affairs, and was in real politics for a while, and then decided to start a Twitch stream in August of 2019, and a couple months later we had the pandemic, and suddenly it blew up to a massively more lucrative than any than being a congressman. So I guess I've been doing Twitch ever since.
I picked the worst time to do it.
Yeah, I've just been very fortunate, and I think people, if you're on Twitch politics, you've probably seen me in some capacity before, so I'm just happy to come on and talk about the Suicide Squad.
It's good to have you, man. Thanks for coming on.
was this your first time watching it, or?
I actually saw it on a plane.
That is actually like, yeah, that works. That's as much as I think it works great on a big screen. This is a great, like, I watched it on a plane and I feel really good about my decision. Yeah.
Yeah,
or paranoid that the government's going to take down your plane.
One or the other.
Well, as soon as you get at a certain level of populist leftists, then your plane will spontaneously explode. That's true.
AKA the Wellstone, right?
Getting on a plane with a Jimmy Dore 24 sticker.
Well, then I would be safe. I mean, obviously that's a operation of the FBI, so I'd be perfectly fine.
I saw it in theaters when it first came out, obviously, and I dressed up, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!"
I'm shocked at all the things you just said.
that my Jimmy Dore joke just made me think of a version of this movie that's all of those like dumb left streamers, but they're the Suicide Squad, and they send them into like.
What are they trying to have them do? Buy a hot dog at a convenience store? Like what level of like?
They're trying to have them all. They're trying to have them all get people really disinvested in like left political movements. So they like send them into like Peru or something to to try to convince people not to vote for it.
Yeah. Anything above shoe tying, I think, might be too much of an ask.
But yeah, I was pushing Forrest to watch this because he was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this. But me and Conan and Andy were like, dude, it's about like taking down Western like imperialism. You'll love it.
And it's the bleakest of black comedies too. That's the other thing. Is whether the jokes will land with you or not. Dude, they flat out slaughter like a village of revolutionaries by accident.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Like, because
which kind of is. I mean, there's a stereotype of both Americans in the military and U.S. foreign policy, which is just the shoot first, ask questions later kind of thing.
Yeah.
Actually, the phenomenon is called blue on green, basically in the military, which is where American forces just kill wantonly Allied forces, and we have blue on blue, which is where we kill our own troops with our like incompetence. And so this was just felt like this is an American military unit. They've been practicing. That's what I have a lot of thoughts about the film. If we want to jump into it right off the bat, but
no, let's talk about pure nonsense for another 45 minutes.
Well, I'm a very straightforward person. I felt like this is the beginning of the type of film that America needs, but is nowhere near far enough. I've thought about the tradition of films made after the Vietnam War, and then this is our kind of like modern equivalent of a Deer Hunter or something, and it's very sorely lacking from that perspective, from my view.
Yeah, it's like the gateway drug, right?
We've kind of covered some of
I hope so.
the 80s Contra type movies of that ilk, like Walker, for example.
Sure.
Go back into our archives.
And I mean, he got black, like that was a signal, you know what I mean? Like Alex Cox getting completely blacklisted from Hollywood, at least, was kind of a sign that, like, no, you can't make this kind of movie. Like, you can't use fucking Sandinista money to make this kind of movie.
Sandinistas.
Yeah, which is the other thing too, is as Forrest got really excited anytime any Sandinistas were mentioned in, like, what was it, Tapeheads, I think it was like mentioned in one scene, and you spent like 20 minutes talking about that.
It sounds like me.
And I'm just like you need to see Suicide Squad, just the Suicide Squad, just for that. Yes.
Yeah, we're also going to be talking about why this movie is way better than the first one, because I know people who are like, no, Suicide Squad is actually way better, more cohesive, a better plot, better cast than the Suicide Squad. And I'm like, tell me the plot to Suicide Squad.
Yeah, who hurt you? Yeah.
They can't tell me what the plot is. I don't know what the fucking plot is. I mean, Star the Conqueror is a way better villain and has a reason for why it's doing what it's doing than Enchantress. I'm gonna be ranting a lot.
What do you think about the fact that the and I want to get back to Mike's comments in a second, because I want to expound on that a little bit. But just, Kristina, what do you think about the idea that kind of in the first scene they kind of kill off, you know, the remaining characters from the original movie to kind of, I guess, show you, like, not just obviously this is a depraved intelligence institution that's literally just ready to,
one.
You know,
they only killed off one of the original characters.
But they've had, like, but the idea is that there's been replacements of the rest of the team, and it's kind of like a Saving Private Ryan kind of situation.
Yeah.
Right? But it all happens at the beginning. You're like, whoa, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's one, but Harley Quinn is from the first one. Obviously, she doesn't die, but she's like the exception, so that they can keep.
She has the power of luck. She's like Domino. Like, seriously, like she gets herself in these situations and she goes,
like Castro.
I'll wing
she's
it.
like
and
Castro in that.
Castro or Domino, either one. You know?
Yeah. But like,
you know, comic book reference or just a weird note.
No. But yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. When I saw the first Suicide Squad movie, everyone was already on their cell phones after the first needle drop. But this film, people were more like engaged, reacting, you know, hooting, hollering, like gasping, like more like what I would
just
expect.
When Kristina walked in.
Yeah.
Hey. Well, I think
that was true though, because the lights were still on. Everyone was like,
I know even people that are critics of this film are very quick to say that the intro is very good. Like, it establishes stakes early on. It kind of shows you everything and doesn't bother telling you everything, which is like the opposite of like those horrendous Star Wars prequels, you know, where they're telling you constantly what to feel or whatever.
Or the previous Suicide Squad movie.
Sure. But like, you don't have to know anything about any of the characters to be dropped into this, because they're literally dropped into this. One of my favorite moments, which is that does anyone know if Weasel can swim? Because they drop him in. It's just like, holy crap. But that's how little that they are regarded as criminals, right? They're considered expendable. You know, it's too bad that, you know, the Expendables kind of ruined that title. But like, they are, you know, it's sort of like, hey, if somebody gets murked in the course of this mission, great. You know, no big deal.
Yeah, and they kind of highlight it in other conversations, right? Like how cheap kind of human life is, and how cheap
they were betting on them.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, you know, I guess I have more experience with, like, you know, the way the culture of the U.S. military operates, and you know, just to draw attention to people, you know, like the original big release from WikiLeaks of Collateral Murder, like, anytime you see kind of gun camera footage or American troops discussing like people that they have a quantitative advantage over who are not really like a threat, that's how they, you know, that's the type of culture that they have for taking human life, which is, it's like comical, it's funny, you know, look at them run, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and you literally have things like the drone operators who, you know, are literally murdering people, but in their heads they're like, well, I told myself it's like a video game and I'm just really good at a video game. And it's like, people fucking die, dude. Like, what the fuck?
I can give you a personal anecdote with this. A guy I used to work with was deployed in Iraq as a sniper, and he had a bunch of video. I don't think he's supposed to have this, of like some of his missions. And he was like, oh, check this out. It's hilarious. And I was like, whoa, dude. Okay. This is not like, I think we have a different sense of humor about things. Like, he was other than the fact that he was a trained killer, really nice guy, but like, he thought it was hilarious, and I was like, "This is you like sniping people? No, I don't want to see this. No, I don't. I'm not interested in that." I did get a Saddam buck out of it, though. I will say that.
And also, there's been a major scandal in Australia with their special forces. I mean, we just had that huge thing when Trump was president, and he went and basically pardoned all these special forces operators who had just like one had like stabbed a 15-year-old detainee to death with a knife, and like texted that around to his friends, like, look how badass this is. I got my knife wet, and killing people, killing children, killing civilians walking and stuff like that. And so that is the culture of the American like special forces, is this kind of like lawless brigade. In American culture, though, they have been, they're the best of the best, as opposed to what they are, which is like the gangster division of the American political class that goes around and does stuff that we can't admit. Like, the purpose of the special forces is to commit crimes, to do things that are not legal. And Suicide Squad, it kind of felt like the first time that, for me, it still felt way whitewashed. As they were doing that, I was like, this is, but what I know happens in reality is way darker than this. But
the idea isn't to make the darkest movie possible, though. The idea is sort of like to make it fun, right? Make it fun, but also be like, whoa, that's jacked up.
Well, that's the kind of thing that's interesting about that's the thing about the film that's kind of a contradiction, is it's like, hey, we're going to, the CIA is actively allowing these civilian, they kill all those rebels, right? And they kind of laugh about it and move on. And then, the person who was their leader just kind of forgets all the people they've been fighting with and becomes their friend. That's the kind of like thing about these kind of movies, is it's always strikes me how inhuman everybody is.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that almost maybe not accurate. I'm sure she would be way more upset about it and like distressed, but they do make it clear, like the government forces right now in Corto Maltese, like had massacred her whole family. So she's like, they do explain it away that way. And I think that I think in these situations where people are in like rebel, I guess, rebel alliances or whatever, you really do have to think that way in some cases, because, like, people are just fighting each other, and you have to make these quick alliances with people you really don't trust, with people that have done absolutely horrific things. U.S. government assistance is the only thing that would like probably have ended up with this coup getting overthrown. Like, I think that the absurdity of and the hostility of the situation in this movie is good. I do agree that it could have gone farther, but it's also like a mainstream, like Warner Brothers.
Of course. Yeah. It's a product.
I mean, they let James Gunn get away with so much, like actually having like creative say in like what goes on in the film, and allowing Margot Robbie to like wear an outfit that isn't revealing, like stuff like that. That's stuff that we care about, I guess. But like,
I mean, James Gunn is a weird person to say he's a feminist, especially with his history. But like,
Trauma films, by the way, look it up.
But I mean, like he certainly has had a redemption arc. Yeah, you could say
you can trust him with comic films,
and you can trust him being, good with women, as opposed to other directors, like, I mean, I've never
be named.
Yeah. We're just not going to list them.
Who did work within the DC universe.
Well, and then also like let's not forget too that one of the reasons why he ended up helming the Suicide Squad and saving it and making, quite frankly, I feel like one of the only really good DC movies is because somebody attempted to cancel him by going back to his old sort of like edgelordy tweets and stuff when he was doing all the trauma stuff, taking it out of context and just trying to get him, fired off of Guardians, which actually did happen for a while. And then this was a huge success. And of course, Marvel/Disney saw the money and they put him back on it. But like,
they also saw that, like, oh no, this was part of his that redemption.
Yeah, he actually grew. So and I really don't want to turn this into a conversation about cancel culture, but he actually has an honest to goodness redemption arc, which happens so little. Like Louis is out there winning awards, and like, what's his redemption arc? He just like waited around long enough that people moved on to other stuff. All right.
The
I mean, like
Okay.
I don't think there's very many true examples of someone being canceled for something like that, for bad tweets.
Well, he was literally removed from like
not celebrities, we
Not
should
this
say.
I mean, I will
it's
say
very
this.
it's very rare to actually see that happen.
Warner Brothers has done more to Johnny Depp than Ezra Miller, and that Flash movie is going to be in the vault at this point. It ain't happening. It ain't coming out.
Maybe Ezra Miller is basically being accused of crimes, though, right? Like kidnapping and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
there is a big difference between.
Yeah, isn't he? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
no, I don't know. I'm not.
No. It is insane the stuff that he's being accused of. I don't know. All
They can't catch him. That's the thing because he's so.
Who was the guy? Who was the
He's so
guy
fast,
that the 21 Jump Street remake where the guy was like an aspiring cannibal? Remember who's that guy? Do you remember this? Am I remember this?
Yeah. There was Army Hammer.
Yeah. He wasn't a cannibal, but he wanted to be one, and like talked about cannibal fantasies and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, you would not think that looking at that dude, but yeah.
Yeah,
they had to. I thought that looking at that dude. I saw that
Really?
dude's face, and I was like, I don't fucking trust Army Hammer.
Why did they cast him as Batman if he wasn't a cannibal?
In Sorry to Bother You way too well.
That's true. He did. Sorry to bother you, by the way.
George Miller cast him as Batman.
But I took us off topic. Sorry, uncharacteristic
This
of
goes
me.
into what Mike was talking about though, because like this kind of gateway almost into better movies, right? Like smarter mainstream movies. I don't know how far you can really take that in terms of like a suit like superhero movies, right? Like because they have to appeal to such a wide variety of people, and I think this movie does that really well. I agree that I don't think that it, I would like this isn't the movie that I would make in terms of how far it goes, but I also think that somebody like James Gunn probably understands like the Peacemaker series, right? Had a lot more inherently political stuff in it
and an identity
other
crisis.
stuff too.
But like
including great music, by the way. That the music direction of that show was astounding.
And that dance number at the beginning is just phenomenal.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. And again, I fully back this movie as like a gateway drug for that kind of thing, while additionally being a deeply entertaining dark comedy, which we just don't get anymore. Everything is like self-aware, but we don't get very many dark comedies that are huge hits these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's this kind of like fake irony or this sarcasm as a substitute for actual jokes is the content of most of these movies now. And you're right. Also, like I heard this phrase recently, and you'll forgive me, but it's something like to the effect of everyone's sexy, but no one has any kind of sex. There's no real like emotional or physical chemistry anymore. It's like very like as far as I'm concerned, like for example, Captain America was like a virgin for the entire time his character is like on film until he literally quits the Avengers to go back in time to get a date. Like that is
the only thing I'll say about Captain America is he is from like World War II era. Like but
yeah,
I get
they were
it.
fucking left and right. They had to put out like PSAs about prophylactic. They handed out prophylactics,
And by the way, Stan Lee, fun fact, Stan Lee was actually making posters during World War II when he was drafted to raise awareness about VD.
Yeah. That, I mean, it's funny. People look back and our society is, they had pinups and stuff. Our society is becoming, not saying that is necessarily good.
They would paint them on the planes too, which is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had that kind of the nose art and all that kind of stuff. Our society is becoming more like it's like a Disney theme park. Even adult content is becoming more similar to like something that you would take a child to. But the violence gets ramped up, but other aspects of human experience get ramped down, and it's like kind of the way our culture is going. I think it's kind of like the development of a culture that is like fascist, and it's like assumptions and the way we talk about ourselves and the stories we tell. I think the superhero genre in itself is kind of like building up that kind of fascist culture that America seems to be gleefully descending into. Maybe
I don't think it was doing that during
but
well, I mean, You don't think it was doing that during like the action movie era too? I mean, like some of those, like it's when people get on rants about superhero movies being like the be all end all of cinema and and culture and whatnot. Look, they've always had this like statist propaganda films. Like, look, what the fuck do you think Top Gun is?
Oh god,
Top Gun's a great example of
right?
Everyone's like, woohoo!
Well, Top Gun is interesting because it was obviously propaganda. Clearly, one of the most successful films, and I think a lot of our films have like gone off of that. Have a genealogy that starts with Top Gun and how Hollywood and the DoD have gotten more and more integrated. And if you want to make a film, you want to make one that is at least neutral toward the U.S. military, so that you can get their aid, like their literal financial support. And we're
also kind of in a period of time where films are kind of done by committee a lot of times, more than they are kind of just written by one person, because we went through that
product, not an art piece.
And characters are added in just to sell action figures, or because they're good model, like good whatever, there's all of these things. I feels like there's a lot of times, I mean, movies are literally directed so that are literally changed so that they can pass through censors in all these different countries. Like the globalization of culture is kind of insane, because you realize you're not just marketing films for like these kinds of films, right? Like for American audiences, it's also for Chinese audiences, it's also for audiences, like all over the world that are going to have different recommendations for stuff. And it kind of, I think globalization ruins like the quality of culture, like not all, but like just in this sense, like
it certainly makes it more homogenized for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Just like the morality level goes to the most restrictive. So like, for example, on Twitch is a great example. On Twitch, there's no, it's almost PG, it's PG-13, everything is, you can't show like news clips that show a body in them or something. Like you couldn't watch CNN.
You cannot show bodily fluids.
You can't show blood or things like that. And it's like, let alone kind of more adult themes or women have these extensive regulations on exactly what attire they can and cannot wear. You can't show female presenting nipples as an example. And it's, you can't set your channel to be an adult only channel and have, more adult themes. That's not permitted. And so we have that kind of homogenization of culture at a very like puritanical level as like the baseline. And, people think these platforms are democratizing, but in fact, they have these like strict content controls that are, kind of baked into everything that we make. And if you go outside of the lines, you will get removed. You will get banned. You will be kicked off these platforms.
Yeah. And it feels like as they ramp up like a lot of anti-hate stuff online, like it ends up being that things are restricted that shouldn't be, and they don't do anything about like the hate problem that they're, what I mean? Like wanting to kind of fight. So like it's a double-edged sword of like, oh, well, then we're going to make this platform so much more restrictive. And also we're still not going to actually target any of the stuff that this is supposed to be fixing.
Right. Yeah. Like sort of like assumptions, like sexist assumptions or bigoted assumptions are kind of like allowed to exist as long as you use the right euphemistic language. But if you show somebody who is like, if you show content that is more oriented towards adults, that's not going to be allowed. I mean, I heard they just, for example, that YouTube just took down a video from January 6th committee had put on YouTube because it had quoted like, Donald Trump or something. Yeah.
Oh,
and it was like
conspiracy theory crap.
When we covered,
they're getting rid of it automatically took down the Congress's video proving he committed crimes because it include election misinformation. And it's like, that's how ineffective the censoring is. Yeah, that's the world we live in. It's insane.
On January 6th itself, I live streamed with Ben Burgess, Varn, Gene. We live streamed for 3 hours, the entire like storming of the Capitol. We were like watching news clips and stuff talking about it. The video got taken down and we were never able to put it back up because they said, oh, sorry, you're not allowed to talk about QAnon on January 6th, even though the entire video was based around debunking stuff that they were saying on January 6th.
Which we were also supposed to be doing an episode on Mean Streets that night.
Yeah.
And I remember working really hard on that poster.
Well, we did it like a week later. But we have a comment that says, Mike, I want to hear your thoughts on the big Sharky boy.
Yes, let's talk about the characters.
Yeah, let's get back to the movie. Sorry for rambling about other topics that are not.
Yeah, this is we do an after party, and that's basically all it is. So if you want to hang out for that, believe me, you're more than welcome. I mean,
they want to hear about Weasel too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I mean, the characters. The one thing I do appreciate about this film is it's more like the superheroes or the villains are more varied than like Marvel content. Like most Marvel villains are just guys in various costumes.
Yes.
And this actually has like weird looking like. Are they human? Like, you know, like Weasel, is that a human? Like, what is that? The shark.
What kind of dog is that?
This?
What
kind of dog is that? Exactly.
Extraterrestrial, like.
Which I mean, to be fair though, the comics
Which is
are
at least
the opposite.
fun.
But let's
say again.
The comics are actually the opposite. Like the Marvel comics are a lot more interesting than the DC comics because the DC comics are like, you know, everything's kind of homogenized the same. You know, they actually had like a lot of like the same 6 creators make everything. But that's a whole other thing.
Well, Infinity Gauntlet, the comic version of it, they use the X-Men literally just like they do the first team in this movie as a distraction that Thanos turned around and then crushed so that they could sneak up from behind him, which was kind of an incredible moment.
Did you guys know that in the original draft, Ratcatcher 2 was supposed to die and not Polka Dot Man?
Really? That's a very different film.
Also, knowing how Polka Dot Man is in the comics, in the comics, he's actually more evil. Like his polka dots become weapons. But in the movie, they made him silly and just throw polka dots at people, which would seem, you know, more funny, I guess. But I was like, wait a minute, because I really did not know he existed. I'm like, there's no such thing as a polka dot man villain. They just made that for the movie. And then I looked it up. I was like, oh shit! But his powers are even like more badass in the comics.
Yeah, but he has mommy issues, and that's what like makes that again.
You want to watch it?
Want
to watch a clip of James Gunn talking about Polka Dot Man?
I would love that for us.
Yes.
Right.
And we should talk while he does that because apparently it's not ready.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's interesting that you say that about the distinction between DC and Marvel. Is like DC has those like kind of when comics first came out, you have like Superman. He's just man, but he's super. And he's a man. He's Batman. He wears a costume.
Bullet by Bloodsport.
Honestly, though,
I'd like to see Average Man. Where's Average Man?
That's Spider-Man. Spider-Man has problems. Like his boss is an asshole. He can't make his rent. His grandma's sick.
He's poor. Yeah, exactly.
Like he's constantly having women problems. Like that's when that was what the big thing Marvel did is like these are people with problems. This isn't just like, you know, as good as look. This is a different conversation. Let's watch this clip.
Yeah.
Incredible collection of DC characters here. Oddballs, you might say. What were the ones that nearly made it that you considered but were like, maybe not, like Crazy Quilt or Clock King?
Yeah, no, I think that I settled on Polka Dot Man for that sort of slot pretty early.
I'm a superhero!
And Javelin, you know, who's pretty useless. So I settled on some of them early, but, you know, listen, I thought about using Man Bat. I thought about using Gun Hawk. I thought about using... Oh boy, just
Condiment King.
No, you know, here's the difference. Like Polka Dot Man was a sincere character. Like Polka Dot Man came out and somebody was writing Polka Dot Man, and I wish I could remember the creator's name. And they're like, "This is a new Batman villain that we're creating, named Polka Dot Man," and he was sincerely created. Condiment King is a joke. Like they created him as a joke. And he was like, oh, here's a stupid character. Whereas I don't care about Condiment King. But Polka Dot Man, he is what he is in the movie, which is he went and he got his suit made. And he's like, I'm going to be a superhero named Polka Dot Man. That's how he started out. Like he thought, this is cool. Nobody's a polka dot guy yet. And so I'm going to be that guy. And then he goes out and people are like, you look like an idiot. And it's embarrassing. But nobody's going to do that.
And that what makes him him. That's part of who he is. You're so right. I've missed that.
It's just suicide. Well, that's kind of our thing.
That's great. What are you, some kind of the Suicide Squad?
I love these characters so much. especially since we know that like El Diablo was supposed to be like the heart of Suicide Squad, but in a way, Ratcatcher 2 is supposed to represent that because of her backstory with her father, played by Taika Waititi too. So that's
who was
amazing.
Ratcatcher 1 in a great kind of
yes,
cameo.
like yeah.
And if you're familiar with David Ayer, it makes perfect sense why he chose El Diablo as that character, because he's
Fast and
he's
Furious.
kind of really fascinated by Mexican gang culture. And he's done some weird movies that are interesting, not good, but interesting.
Yeah,
about that stuff. So,
and I love the fact that Peacemaker and Bloodsport have like this sort of like rivalry, like who has like the better like killings and the better weapons and whatnot, and like he's
we get into like a kill off in the village, right? Like
basically.
the fanciest
And
way
also
you can kill
too,
people.
it's like he does exactly the same thing that I do, but I'm like except he's like a MAGA chud. That's the only difference.
Well, yeah, I mean the big reveal, right, is that he's not actually in the Suicide Squad. He's a placed operative by the CIA, by Waller, to make sure that they don't abscond with the records and stuff kept at the facility. So like that's kind of like it's kind of to neutralize the force that is Killshot, right? Like that's
which is a real thing. I mean, if you're talking about COINTELPRO, if you're talking about that's like again, gateway drug to like if you want more reading on this, folks, like
yeah,
you can find it.
Amanda Waller has more of a personality in this film.
Yeah, I think that King Shark is fucking incredible though, and I love that Sylvester Stallone voices him.
Kills it.
Mustache.
It's he finally does a comedy. Like he's been in comedies before. They're not funny. I've watched them.
They're meant to be comedies. Yeah, exactly.
The closest you'll get is Oscar, which I just think he's completely miscast in a screwball comedy.
Tim Curry's in that one, isn't he?
Yeah, it's almost worth watching, but don't watch it. Don't.
I think though that what I was trying to say about the Peacemaker thing in the beginning of this is that the intros being the same, I think, sets you up as an audience for his inevitable like, oh, why was this guy actually included into this into the squad? But also I also feel like you definitely wouldn't do that kind of introduction if you were really trying to place an op. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't be like, this guy's the same as you, but everybody else is different. But for an audience, I think that plays out.
Oh, and I do want to bring this up before we get too far from that clip. Bill Finger was the guy who created the Polka Dot Man in 1962. He's also the creator of Batman.
There's a really cool documentary about him.
Yes,
the fact that Polka Dot Man has been around for that long, it's like, and yet a lot of people probably never heard of him until the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Well, his costume wasn't very good, and they were like, you know what, you're a joke. You throw polka dots at people. Get out of here. And
Also, too, the prison scenes were filmed in Augusta, Georgia. I would have been an extra in the scene where all the girls are hooting, howling, wolf whistling at John Cena and Idris Elba, which I totally would have done for free.
Yeah, I was gonna say you wouldn't even charge them, right?
Yeah, I'd be like, I'll do it. I don't care. Like,
you got that Warner Brothers money. You need. The
prison is right next to a Red Lobster.
All right, they're gonna pay you in Red Lobster.
Red Lobster when you're done.
I know. I would be like, hey,
just like Beyonce said,
you're gonna be the next James Bond. Idris Elba.
You want to go to
Speaking of redemptions, this was Idris Elba's redemption from Cats.
You gotta ask Idris Elba to take you on a date to Red Lobster. You're gonna be like, hey, you got that big Red Lobster money. It's expensive as fuck there.
Yeah, and then put the hot sauce in your bag, swag.
Movie Night Extravaganza brought to you by Red Lobster.
Brought to you by Arby's.
Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Yeah.
Movie Night Extravaganza brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah,
they're paying me money to shit on Red Lobster.
King
they
Shark.
don't even sell lobsters, do they? It's all what was that? Lagostino? What is the fake lobster?
I have no idea.
I guess I could care less, but I'd have to try. King Shark is an incredible character because much like Groot, it's a beloved fan favorite character that's CGI. And CGI is so hard to be interesting on screen, I feel. And they managed to make like a character that is like a standout character.
Yeah.
That is big goofy CGI. And I think that's great.
And with the Harley Quinn series, he has more of a personality too, so he's already established as like someone that's liked.
Yeah. Well, I mean the comic book too. Like honestly, he was a big threat to Superboy in the comics. So he you had actually a very interesting character to start with. You know, you know,
and I just, you know, he's like what I like about.
I'm gonna throw that in the main chat, there, Mike. That's pretty horrific.
that they're not real. They're not lobster. Yeah.
I mean, I don't eat seafood, so it doesn't matter to me. But that is
you don't eat seafood? Oh my goodness!
No, I don't eat seafood either. It makes me sick. But
while langostino means little lobster in Spanish, the crustacean is more similar to a hermit crab and less expensive than American lobsters. It's fucking disgusting.
Can we talk about Harley, please?
Okay, now I'm going to talk about lobsters.
We're gonna talk about lobsters for like 20 more minutes, then we can talk about
this is the thing about this podcast, guys. I try to
You
keep
brought me on. This is what you
don't
get.
listen to me. Also, Conan also tries to keep everyone focused.
I do.
But so
Usually
of course,
failing.
this film takes after Birds of Prey. So Harley's in a different place in her life. You know, she's property of no one. She's broken up with the Joker. She's on her own. The reason why she gets caught is because the guy wants to marry her for whatever reason. I'm like, okay, this is a side plot that makes no sense. But this also shows that Harley does think about things. She sees red flags, for instance. And
I do love her description of how she got caught too.
Podcast from what I've heard, red flag.
Yeah,
Hey,
good podcast.
subscribe now.
Oh, I like how she described how she got caught too. That she had an incident of road rage in a bank.
Yes.
It's a clever movie. It's funny.
What's so great about the use of songs in this movie is that James Gunn is good at soundtracks.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy absolutely killed it. I think it's
No needle drops here, like songs that actually have to do with what the character's going through. He's on it. Like a lot
or
of people,
ironically has to do with what the character.
yeah. And a lot of people are like, well, how come she's singing this song about not having anyone? I'm like, because she doesn't think that the rest of the squad's going to come to save her. So she has
that Louis Prima song, actually it's two songs, slaps, and it's a great thing to put a fight scene.
Just a gigolo.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere he goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everywhere she goes.
I mean, she's just focused. She's fighting all. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm all on my own. I can fight. I can take on 100 Cortomonchis, military men. I got this.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty incredible scene. Like,
it leads to one of the funniest scenes afterwards too, where she's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Oh, we're rescuing you." And she's like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Do you want me to go back?"
You want to go back inside and we can still do it?
Yeah, it's like that's so good, and I love that that's in the preview because it's sort of like it's really earned as like a scene, but it's freaking funny. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to railroad you.
Oh well, I want to bring it back for one second to I was thinking about what Mike said earlier about like kind of using humor. Yeah, no, using humor as like sarcasm as humor. And I remembered like one exchange in this movie that I think really kind of skewers that idea is
exactly
when the thinker was like he's like, well, the general guy was like, all that shit in your face is to make your brain good, like sarcastically, and he's like, yes, to make my brain good. And the guy was, are you being sarcastic with me?
Yeah.
And Peter Capaldi is such a great actor. Like
he really is. Yeah, the villain. He's the true villain of the film.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. I was just gonna say I'm such a huge fan of like In the Loop is great, but the series in the thick. If you are remotely interested in politics, like fucking incredible, and also incredibly vulgar. And also, I love his run as the Doctor, but really, it's all about him in the thick of it, and like later, kind of as a movie. Sort of kind of spin-off kind of became Into the Loop, which In the Loop we should definitely do when we do like politics month. Anyway, Mike, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what really redeems the movie for me is the entire structure is just constantly keeps cutting your legs off, and keeps. Yeah. I hate saying subverting your expectations because that seems so overdone at this point, but it keeps kind of like going, no, really, we're telling you this is America worked with Nazis, to fight the Cold War. Like, America was behind this evil thing from the very beginning, and we're using it for our naked power. And as you keep learning, and it's funny, to me to see them seeing how much they can get away with telling you, which is basically everything in this movie could totally have happened in real life. There's nothing fanciful about it.
Yeah,
there would just have to be a giant squid creature in space. You know what I mean? Like that would 100%.
Excuse me, it was a starfish.
Starfish.
Star
Yeah,
the Conqueror.
starfish.
A better villain.
we regret the error. Yeah.
A better villain.
No, I agree with that completely, and I think that I'm kind of fascinated by, like, as someone who's listened to a lot of like Stephen Kinzer's books, right? Like about kind of how far the CIA really did push things, and how far the American government was willing to push things, during the Cold War and after, like bringing in Nazis with Operation Paperclip, but also just the amount of experimentation they were willing to do, but also like the bureaucratic versus scientific exploration. And I think that this movie does that really interestingly with the Thinker as a character, because there's no moral compass to it at all, right? Like his only thing is that he wants to literally rape, experiment on, do all of these different things to the people that, Starro the Conqueror has taken over. And there's no morality to it. There's only like the raw idea of scientific exploration, whereas the US government is almost always looking to cover up their involvement in things. And those are diametrically, I think, opposed positions when it's something like this. And you're like, like his only thing is like, I've done 30 years worth of research. They're going to cut it off. No thinking about like the people that he's experimented on and killed. Nothing like that.
Yeah, those are corpses under those stars.
Well, and the thing is, the American government doesn't care about those people either. It cares about PR. Yeah. It cares about, it cares about how America is perceived and how this will, undermine our influence operations. It has nothing to do with like right or wrong. And the CIA being willing to let all the civilians die in that city is kind of exactly right. That's exactly how the American government operates, and that's how we operate around the world today. Those civilians are expendable.
She's like, I'm like, there's a 100-foot extraterrestrial star that is feeding off of people in a country. You don't think that thing's going to try to take over the entire world? Why would you have to kill that?
That's exactly right, and that's how America operates. Like, we create these blowback scenarios, things spin out of control that we directly cause, and we kind of just try to cover it up and hide it. And then eventually it comes back. And obviously the extraterrestrial alien with mind control starfish is going to affect the United States.
Yeah. It's the consequences of my actions. Yeah,
exactly.
I had the turntables.
And no, but the line that she actually says really, I think, highlights that. I'm trying to find it because I wrote it down. But when they're like, hey, we should stop this giant starfish. And she's like, no, our objectives, I guess objectives is the line. Like our immediate objectives are turned towards like letting a country with a hostile government just getting taken over by this this giant starfish.
Take over the whole world eventually.
They only think in terms of immediate objectives, right? Like they only think about in terms of what's good for U.S. interests right now, not what's good for U.S. interests anytime in the future. So, like, I mean, I've been kind of going crazy about this with like the Ukraine situation when, they have Hillary Clinton go on TV and say, this is just like the Mujahideen. Like, this is going to be just like the Mujahideen. Doesn't mention what happened after that. Just mentions the immediate like freedom fighter aspect of it. Like the American government does this over and over and over again, where these situations are clearly like huge red flags. You're like, don't you want to like maybe not do this right now? Don't you want to look into it, research it? And they're like, no, we should do this. We should funnel money and weapons into this place and not know where they're going. And we should, let a starfish take over this entire city. Like it all kind of works that same way. It's what's best for immediate objectives. And then, if there's problems down the line, we'll solve them one at a time, which never happens. Never happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, right before, on my stream today, I talked about how there's another island where the United States has basically had its way with, and it's called Haiti. And, in 2008, 2009, there was a huge street movement to raise the minimum wage in Haiti to $5 a day. And Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, through the U.S. State Department, closely monitored and surveilled all the leaders of the Haitian minimum wage increase movement. It was so popular, it ended up passing unanimously in the Haitian parliament. And the United States of America basically went into the president of Haiti and was like, you better block this now, because Hanes or I can't remember which companies, Levi's or whatever is making clothes there is not going to.
It might have been Levi if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there was a few. There's this special opportunity zone we set up in Haiti after the earthquake where we could just basically have these sweatshops, led by the Clinton Foundation, and it's like this is how America actually operates. Our diplomacy in other countries, especially these small countries in Latin America or the Caribbean, is basically a right-wing surveillance intelligence operation in every single one of these small countries. And anytime they try to exercise any amount of self-determination or control their own destinies, their own development, or make their lives better for their people, we're going to physically interfere by any means necessary, and just last week, Joe Biden had that, Summit of the Americas where they wouldn't invite a few countries. Mexico decided to boycott because of it, but they did invite Haiti, whose leader has not been elected. Their last prime minister was assassinated, and they just have some guy America says is the leader now, and he's in charge. And that's a democracy. That's A-okay. But, these other countries have democratic elections that go against the United States interest, and suddenly their dictatorships need to be sanctioned, their people need to be killed, and that's how we operate.
Well,
imagine if Harley Quinn went through that marriage, though.
Wait, so there was in Haiti also, a couple decades before that, didn't Bush just kind of go have special forces go in, kidnap Aristide, like the president of Haiti, and fly off with him at one point? Yeah, that's the Suicide Squad. That's what the Suicide Squad would really be doing. It'd be trying to kidnap foreign leaders that decided to raise the minimum wage at a factory somewhere, because the profit margin of Hanes underwear would go from 5,000% to 4,500%. That can't be allowed. Damn, we gotta, Mike, you're nerding out. Calm down. We're honestly talking about
it's funny because whenever I watch entertainment like this, maybe I'm just so boring and unfun but I keep thinking like when I see these experiments happening, I'm just thinking of the real life example, and it takes me out of the moment because it's damn, this is dark, but it's not as dark as it really is. Makes me want to go off on a rant with the person sitting next to me.
But the thing is that I think mainstream audiences don't know about this stuff and kind of have to have the veil lifted from the U.S. state slowly. I don't think you can jarringly make a movie for.
Oh, absolutely right.
Now, if you want to be effective.
So
absolutely right.
I think that this.
Some people just want catharsis. So if you just want catharsis, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that this movie does that really well. I think that this movie kind of lifts the veil off in a pretty slow, methodical way. And even if you're not someone who's inclined to be a leftist or inclined to be any form of anti-imperialist whatsoever, I think watching this and researching a little bit, just basic little bit about any of the stuff that we actually do is pretty effective in communicating a very basic understanding of how these operations really work. The black sites, using a hospital, a Nazi hospital in a Latin American country as a black site, that is 100% what we did. We kept the Nazis there and didn't bother them. We just hired them, but still, that's 100% what we did.
They're just like us for real. Yeah.
Isn't it funny that Bloodsport had a rat phobia?
I think that's great, and honestly, I am such a huge fan of the little rat with the battle vest,
Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian. I'm that's such a small. There's a lot of small characters in here that do.
Hey, work, that's my job.
I mean, do we need to discuss that? I think it's just a known fact, right?
We haven't gotten to final thoughts yet, so
Yeah, Margot is beautiful in this. Yeah,
she's. This is the thing about Margot Robbie. She's up there with Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Hiddleston being perfectly cast as a live action comic book character.
Agreed. And it's amazing that it's a career making role for her, right?
Yeah.
And but also Harley Quinn's
people
a second
are mad
stringer.
that she wasn't wearing something sexy, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
She does an American accent so well too.
I know, and this is how she came up with her Brooklyn accent, because she did this for Wolf of Wall Street. Her dialect coach or whatever was telling her okay, imagine you're at a salon and you're getting acrylics, And so they're like, keep doing this, and you start sounding like you're from Brooklyn, like you're from New York. And I'm like, oh my God, I totally see it. Like it's like, and that's, she was like, oh my God, I think I can do it. I think I could do a Brooklyn accent. And I'm like, she also, like, she didn't want to sound like Tara Strong or Arlene Sorkin, which I get it. And a lot of people are mad that she doesn't have like that high pitched sound. I'm like, she can't be imitating. She has to evocate. She has to do her own take.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
I mean, that everybody, you know, that's because a lot of the way people consume this content is it's like member berries, you know, it's like this nostalgic bump. They're they're just trying to like get another scoop of the nostalgia cook. So like you have a great role, you know, being played of Harley Quinn in the animated series, and you know that was so well voice acted, and then so everybody has to copy that.
Created for the animated series too.
Right. That's what I was gonna break into before I dared interrupt Kristina and her Harley Quinn factoids. But like she's a second stringer. Like this, like her performance, whether or not you think that first movie is good or not, it's not, by the way. Objectively, it's not a good movie.
It sucks.
But like it started her on the road to Birds of Prey, which is a good movie, I feel.
Yeah.
And The Suicide Squad, which is also a good movie, to make a career-making role and define a character that was a second stringer. Like literally, it's Joker's girlfriend.
Right? That's it.
I mean, you know, let's also be honest. Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor did a lot of that too in the comics. You know, which without them,
I'm talking about things that like not people that are Andy World might care about, like that, like you know, like the grand world at large, right? Like it's. Yeah.
Like
it's
a lot
great
of people, I remember when Margot first got casted, and they were like, "Oh, an Australian." I'm like, Wolf of Wall Street. She did a strong, thick New York accent. She used Lorraine Bracco from Goodfellas as her inspiration, as opposed to like Marissa Tomei and My Cousin Vinny, which I'm kind of relieved she went with like Lorraine Bracco as her like go-to for like inspiration on the accent. So I mean, I know a lot about Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I think this is very good insight. So, Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
We would hope so. Yeah. Everybody subscribe to Kristina, Twitch people. She's if you don't
Kristina.
Yes,
we'll get to that later on.
I cosplay a lot from both.
The crowd pleaser. Yep. Mike, get it. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, and well, I think that is she's like one of the strongest characters in the film, obviously, and you know I mean Margot's great. I mean the Wolf of Wall Street she really like stole the show in that movie, and kind of like grab hold of every scene she was in as a character, so she's pretty great.
Yeah, and like, you know, I get it that it's suddenly
fanboys want her to be sexy.
Well, and then it's also like it's a ubiquitous Halloween costume for the rest of our lifetimes now, and like whatever. But it's a good role, and like I think that there's something to be said for that. Which Margot Robbie, who happens to be impossibly gorgeous, but actually is a good actress.
Yes,
like to have a role like that like can shape culture that way. That's awesome. You know,
her accent's so iconic in both. I mean, as Harley Quinn and also as you know, in Wolf of Wall Street. I like forget that she's
got the goggles going. That's great.
I forget like she's Australian, and so it's almost jarring when like she speaks in her normal accent in an interview or something. Like it's almost jarring to me because her accent is so iconic.
Do you have any clips of that? Is that a thing you have clips of, or is that just your talking about in general?
No,
I think a Jimmy Kimmel clip of her talking about how she gets her accent correct.
I mean, I have a bunch of clips. I just haven't been playing them.
I just want to say too, like not only that, she's sitting next to Jai Courtney, who's doing his native Australian accent right next to her while she's in character, and she's still nailing it. So like that just tells you how good she is too.
Also, she was crazy good in I, Tonya. That was another movie.
And Wolf of Wall Street too. I'm not saying she wasn't great in other things. I'm just saying that like this role is specifically unique in the fact that it's been very good for her, for people to realize but it's hilarious that it's in like this movie, which is like, you know, just a big crazy madcap blockbuster, like absolutely dark comedy, nutso thrill ride. But like, yeah, it's awesome. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Daniela Melchior, who portrayed Ratcatcher 2.
And she really is a Portuguese actress from
yes.
like yeah.
So she was phenomenal. Like you can like what I liked about her character was that, you would think that her character actually had like daddy issues, but no, she loved her father and he taught her the ways of calling the rats. And it's just sad that they
taught her the ways of calling the rats. Yo, rats, get out here.
Yo, rats, get your asses out here. And I love that he just always like has like that's his one fear, right? He's like the fearless like leader or reluctant leader, whatever, and like that's his one fear, which is like Indiana Jones style.
Okay,
right?
what are you about? You eat tiny whiteys.
I also really love the line because it really does show like the contradiction between objectives in all these cases, where Waller is like, why didn't you tell us about your fear of rats during your psychological profile? And he's like, well, I'm an assassin. I'm not just gonna give up my.
Exactly. Why would I tell you? Yeah, exactly.
Why did everyone know the weasel couldn't swim?
Yeah. But like that's 100% true. Like if you're in one of those situations, you're some kind of mercenary and like assassin or whatever, like you're not gonna obviously just give up. Like, hey, I'm afraid of these things, and I'm like this is a weakness that I have.
Yeah. You don't really say your actual greatest weakness in a job interview either.
Yeah,
you make some shit up.
I care too much. I care too much.
I just get so focused sometimes, Well, one of the things I like about the film was, kind of the wrap up of the major fight was, they had the weapon they used to defeat the big bad was the rat, which is an individually weak thing on its own, but when it operates collectively, it can defeat even this like seemingly impossibly strong, alien. Yeah. And I think that's supposed to be kind of like evocative for everybody who's watching to look at that and go, maybe if we all start working together for the same goal, we can overtopple anything. And, the rat catcher's power of, everybody, the most despised animal, when working together can become the most powerful thing is kind of the statement of the politics of the movie that is really interesting to me.
I also love the character development from Harley in the first Suicide Squad movie. She couldn't swim. Here she is swimming in the eye of a starfish.
The vitreous fluid of the eye. That's pretty gross.
That's such a beautiful scene. Like I know it's not.
I love that scene.
All the rats, and she's like.
Well, that's creative.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's not something that's just like a gray rubble with like portals opening. It's not the same mush that you get in so much of the Marvel stuff. It's like, damn, a giant eye, and then it goes further, and you explore the like anatomy of the eye. You're inside the eye.
Like they're chewing the membranes of the.
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool! Like that is creative as hell. That's interesting. Yeah. We need more of that, and less grimdark gray rubble movies.
Well, I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like both of them were directed and written by James Gunn. They're the most creative, I think, of the Marvel movies. You know what I mean? Like he's like, I mean, maybe Thor Ragnarok is pretty good.
I like Thor Ragnarok.
Thor, Love and Thunder 2 is gonna be so good.
Yeah, that'll be good as well. But that's almost like in the same way like the Guardians movies are like James Gunn movies, and like those Thor movies are like Taika Waititi movies, right? Because they share more in common with like Hunt for the Wilder People than they do for the first Captain America or something along.
But I also think too, it's like James Gunn and Taika Waititi are both more visual and like creative directors, whereas like the Russo brothers came up out of doing sitcoms. And
you can tell.
And I'm not trying to slag their work because I do think like Winter Soldier is actually a fairly solid movie in itself. It's just
it is. Leftists don't want to hear it, but it is a solid movie. Yeah.
Winter Soldier is pretty good. I'll give them that.
It's like an Alan
Mac Marvel movie. I watch the slop like everybody else, but I just visually, I think there's a sameness to a lot of them, and it gets to be a bit.
Yeah, and
if you have all that money, why can't you do something interesting?
Yeah, hire more artists. If they actually hired
more artists. Sorry,
but remember who was supposed to originally
give them power.
Ant-Man.
Don't just tell them to animate something stupid.
But I mean, remember who was supposed to originally direct Ant-Man? It was what's his face? The guy who did all the who did Baby Driver.
Edgar Wright.
Yeah. Which is again another artiste in his own right, and also very visual. And I think that's the problem is like comics are a visual medium, and it's one thing whenever you do something like Gray, like say The Crow, which is based on the black and white comic. It's a whole other genre of comics that as opposed to the 4-color superhero stuff. But like it's beautiful. The film adaptation works on that level because of what the source material, whereas that doesn't necessarily work for say the 47,000 Batman movies that have come out. Because we're all tired of that aesthetic, and I think you could do something a little bit more with it, but you're not getting these great visual directors. I mean, you had Tim Burton, who I think did a beautiful job with Batman.
Yeah, those Burton Batmans. I mean, like if you watch them recently, they're
more
super unique
Tim
looking.
Burton Batman films.
Exactly.
And then Sam Raimi too, like another good example of a very good director.
I recently revisited the Raimi Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, and they're fantastic. We don't speak of 3.
Yeah, Darkman. Darkman is my Spider-Man 3.
I still remember being in the theater. I remember being in the theater and seeing the Spider-Man Doc Ock fight when they're just on the train, and it just
Alfred Molina's so good. He's so good in that. I mean, he's a great actor
and so perfectly cast too. Like
absolutely
just on fire.
I feel like people are starting to burn out really fast of the nostalgia, like the hopeless nostalgia, I guess, of like just kind of inserting characters in for just for the purpose, for like the sole purpose of like a like, hey, I remember that from that movie, like fan service. Like I wonder if we're gonna start moving away from that a little bit more,
except for when it comes to Andrew Garfield.
Well, I saw the most recent Doctor Strange movie, and I feel like I can see the seams opening up on that type of content, where it's like member berries, like when the film actually pauses so that the theater has like a time to react or shout, or you know what I mean? But it's like a laugh track that never comes. You can really feel like the moment is starting to maybe finally, hopefully, fingers crossed, pass where member berries is not enough anymore, and you really have to like tell a story.
I'm loving this phase in Marvel because they're doing the multiverse, different variants, time traveling, very like experimental with like plotting and even like creative like CGI and visual effects and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to like this phase as opposed to like previous phases.
So you're saying they're finally kind of catching up to the comics?
Well, so Mike, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which the now classic episode of last week?
Yeah.
Was it last week? Yeah, it's Friday.
A week ago.
Jesus. Yeah. And one of our most watched episodes, actually, as of last week. I like Multiverse of Madness. I like that they let Sam Raimi make a big budget superhero movie again.
Should have been rated
Oh no, I don't think the movie's bad, but I'm just saying
I'm not even trying to discuss it. I'm just saying one of the most interesting, inventive movies covering similar-ish ground came out like a week earlier, and I had to see so many hot takes about the relative merits of the Doctor Strange movie. And it's like, why don't you just watch a movie that's wildly popular, that is unique in every possible way, and putting forth all the stuff you're bitching about instead of complaining about this thing that you can't control?
Yeah,
I like. Well, it's funny. You remember you mentioned Everywhere All at Once. That film. When I was trying to watch it, I remember the original release was like so limited.
It was like an art house film practically.
I had to like. There was like one theater in Philadelphia that was showing it, and it was like, Jesus Christ, why is this so hard to see? They still have Batman out for the 80th week. And why is?
Well, that's because they're still showing the first showing of it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm still watching it, actually. Yeah.
Same here.
So, that was, So, I totally get you. I get you. I'm not trying, but I just think there's a certain limited, run for stuff that's a little bit, they don't even want to give it a shot. No matter how good it is, it just doesn't have the same kind of like penetration as I could go to a rather large theater next to me, and it's going to have 8 different screens for,
Morbius.
Batman. Or Morbius. Yeah, or Morbius.
It's now the Morbius Theater.
Yeah.
It's the Morbius Memorial Theater. But I think so but what I love is the fact that movie, through grassroots action, basically, has caught on in a very real way and deserves it.
Yes.
And it's just so amazing. Here's the only thing that I can make it akin to. And I know I'm kind of like, lingering on this, but I have a point. Is that I watched Game of Thrones when they ran out of source material and they just started doing exclusively cocaine decisions and what they thought would be good.
No reason.
Well, they had to quit. They have other shows they were trying to make.
Yeah, they're trying to do other
quit
shit.
this.
But that so basically Game of Thrones became fan service, aka what people thought Game of Thrones that didn't watch Game of Thrones. Twin Peaks: The Return came out at the same time, and the difference between the quality of the two was so striking. It's like, oh, one of these is art, and one of these is just I'm trying to get money so I can move on to the next thing. And it was so palpable. And I'm not saying it's exactly the same thing with Doctor Strange, because again, I like Multiverse of Madness. It was a good movie. Peace and love.
Well, there were some really good fight scenes, with the music battle. That was great. I love that. That was awesome stuff.
So yeah, and I love that. Let Sam Raimi direct big budget pictures again. I know everyone hasn't forgiven that Oz movie, and I get it. It's terrible, but
my kids liked it when it came out.
But this is what I like about this. When it comes to comparing the first Suicide Squad movie and the second one, there's a consistent visual. There's consistent tone. You the visuals and the effects and the colors and are just so much better and more consistent than whatever the fuck the first movie was about.
Yeah, I don't even acknowledge its existence.
Let Conan speak.
Well, just so when we're talking about and critiquing these franchise intellectual property films, right, and giving them the due discourse that they deserve, let's not forget that there is original stuff out there, and it's incumbent upon us to become the media, as Jello Biafra says.
Like the new Barbie movie.
I mean, the Greta Gerwig Barbie with Margot Robbie. I'll watch that, sure.
It's gonna probably win Best Picture. Mark my words.
If it wins Best Picture for Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Greta Gerwig,
I'm gonna riot.
All right, they should bring Morbius in there and have a little shout out to Morbius. Give him a moment.
No, Jared Leto as Ken.
Kenbius.
Where's that mashup?
But yeah, do you want to go to the letterbox one-liners?
Of course, I would love to. Mike, are you familiar with this bit? Are you familiar with this at all?
Why don't you explain it for all of my fans that may see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Letterboxd is a place for film. It's a social media site for film lovers who talk at, with, and to each other about the films they love, the films they didn't love, the films that they were baffled by, the films they were weirdly horny or thirsty for. And everybody gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and the Eberts. And all of this is best expressed briefly, succinctly, working your tight five in the classic one-liner response. We collect these. Right? We collect these for discussion on this show and reaction. These are the letterbox one-liners for the Suicide Squad. Forrest, roll them. Shout out to that right-wing dipshit who canceled James Gunn on Twitter so that we could get this banger and Guardians 3. That really backfired for them, huh?
Nice.
That's just a statement of fact. That's not funny. But
he's just so fucking good at. He's just so fucking good at what he does. You know what I mean? Making interesting, creative superhero movies.
Did anyone check if the weasel could swim?
And I love that the weasel lived.
He did. Where's his spinoff? It's probably
yes.
He's gonna be Ron DeSantis' vice president.
Yes, Weasel 2024.
Superhero movies can in fact be movies and fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also bleakly dark, at the same time.
And pitch black as well. Yeah. How could they do Polka Dot Man like that? The fuck?
I know. RIP to a great one.
He was honestly the most relatable out of that whole team. I'm not gonna lie.
You picture all of us as your mother?
Yeah, for that reason. Not
those scenes. I on a rewatch, I laughed way harder at those scenes for some reason. I'm not sure why.
I like the entire Suicide Squad as
it's
well. I think it's because it's coming and you can appreciate the artistry that went into the CG for that, because they really. I mean, just seeing his mother in that stupid Bugs Bunny shirt.
He also
kind of mirrored trying to catch a butterfly.
He kind of mirrors Starro the Conqueror in a way, because in the same way that his mother kind of tortured him with these experiments to turn him into a superhero. It kind of feels like almost like a mirror of those two characters.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even get that. Non-stop joyride from starfish to finish.
Yes, because the javelin was Finnish.
Weasel will return in Avengers: Infinity Wheeze.
Yes, please.
The only fan service that I won't shit talk.
Only 3 likes on this one. I was like, this is the funniest one, man.
I bet they probably rated Suicide Squad better.
Jordan knew it. Shout out. That's good. Infinity Wheeze. Starting a petition for Nanawe to replace Amber Heard and Aquaman.
Oh no!
Yes,
Jesus!
Yes.
Oh no!
Yes.
I'd fuck with it.
Or Bruce Campbell.
Those are the 2. Huh? All right. I want to be friends with the rat.
Same.
Yeah, I don't even like rats. I mean, and it was cute, and I'd like to be friends with that one.
Rats are cute. What do you mean? Don't be speciesist.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be speciesist, Forrest. Come on.
Oh, I guess that's all of them.
Oh, I thought there was
I missed one.
All right, well, those are the Letterboxd one-liners for the Suicide Squad. Follow Movie Extravaganza on Letterboxd. That's Forrest over there. I, of course, am Conan Neutron. You can follow me as well. J. Andrew Worlds, watching all of the trash cinema that you didn't know that you were interested in, but maybe you would be. I'm Kristina, out of order. Sorry, of course, your favorite Harley Quinn over there. Well, over there. Whatever. You can see her. She's on Letterboxd and has been logging stuff and is threatening to do a pretty good bit with Johnny Depp. That should be good if she ever gets around to it. We'll see.
Oh.
Yep.
Mike from PA does not know what Letterboxd is until that bit, but maybe he should be.
I mean, I've heard of it. I know about Letterboxd. I swear.
It's a good way to track movies you want to see. That's how I got stuck on it. So once they hook you in, it's a whole freaking.
By the way, it was wild. It was wild to watch this movie. While all the stuff about like the "What is a woman" discourse is going on during Pride Month, because Star of the Conqueror is literally a transgender pride flag, pretty much like the same color. I kept on thinking
trans rights are human rights.
I kept on thinking that like what like Ben Shapiro and like Matt Walsh think is going to happen if we're allowed to use preferred pronouns, is that Star of the Conquerors thing will come down and like each person will be like enveloped by the transgender pride flag emoji in the same way that everyone was in this.
Honestly, I think that's a good solution. We should workshop that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We know Avengers is Marvel. That's the fucking joke. That is the joke. That is literally the joke. That and the Pauly Shore reference. Anyway, J. Andrew World, please take it away for the plugs.
Yeah, I'm going to go serious just for a moment here. First of all, I found out this morning that Calendar Man co-creator, or at least the modern version of it, Tim Sale passed away. He was thanked in the credits of this movie. Brilliant artist. If you suffered through that terrible TV show Heroes from 15 years ago, he did all the artwork that was featured in the first season. Gorgeous stuff. I love the man. He was 66. R.I.P. Second serious plug I have right now. John Ostrander, the creator of this version of the Suicide Squad. He about 10 years ago, it came out that he had glaucoma and was having trouble, getting work. And because he worked as a for-hire artist, had no health insurance. So fans kind of banded together and was able to help him get the medical insurance that he needed. I think he's still working a little bit, but obviously, it's much harder for him to do so. But the Heroes Initiative was kind of founded out of that initial help for him. And I'm going to ask everybody right now, if you can, go to the Heroes Initiative and donate some money, because there are lots of creators like him. The creator of Polka Dot Man, for example, died in poverty, alone on a couch, and right after the episode of Batman, the Adam West TV series he wrote aired. There's so many tragic stories like this in the comic book industry, and I think this is just a good chance to shout that out and say, hey, this is a great group right here. And if you can, throw them some money. They got some great merch if you want to buy some comics. IM me or DM me or whatever. My DMs are open. Y'all can, if you want to ask me about comics to buy and to support that kind of stuff, ask me. I'll tell you some good stuff. I'll hook you up. I'll let you know. But that brings us to Twitch. If you're watching us right now on Twitch, like I know many people do, especially I imagine Mike's fans are all Twitch people.
Yeah, it's like 90% of the crowd.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah.
I got like 3 people that tune in on Twitch, man. Like
I'm talking to the choir right now with those people. But if you can subscribe, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you know what to do. Subscribe. That helps us out. Blah blah blah. Now, for those of you watching us on YouTube, you've heard this before. Like, subscribe, comment, watch to the end. Hit that bell. Yeah, hit the bell. Then watch to the end. Because when you watch the end, not only do you get that great Conan Neutron song, but you also help us out, so other people can find our videos on YouTube.
Hit that bell like like that fucking cannonball hit Pete Davidson's face in the.
Amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing scene. Love it.
I think Kanye watches that on repeat.
Yeah, he wrote that scene.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he's a ghost project. He did it for free, actually.
If you happen to like the content we create but are tired of using your eyeballs, we do have an audio version of this.
Where you won't see me as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, you've missed that out, but that's okay.
Which is worth the price of admission, which, to be clear, is free on its own.
Yes. But what you can do is find us on your favorite podcasting apps. Like us there, subscribe there, give us a review that helps other people find us, and greatly would appreciate that. We do have a Patreon. Patreon, you get the after parties forever.
After party forever. After party
for those of you who don't know what after parties are, those are basically our bonus stuff that we run for free, coming up real shortly, but you'll have access to forever as long as you're subscribing. That's gorgeous.
Mike, you gonna come on for a little bit for the after party?
Sure
part?
Thing. Sure
it's
thing.
a lot more.
Those are way looser, to be sure.
Yeah. We talk way more about Red Lobster.
We talk
good, because I'm very loose, so to speak. So
the Red Lobster
more my
content
style.
gets off the chain. It's really amazing.
Now, if you're enjoying looking up in this corner right up here and seeing that wonderful cosplaying, you can see more of that on Kristina's Twitch channel.
Yes.
And if you want to support her and her getting money for such beautiful costumes, she also has a Patreon. So please hit that up if you can. Because we enjoy these outfits. These outfits aren't free.
Everybody.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
I ordered with my Twitch payout money. I got a Clea Strange cosplay for Doctor Strange, and I'm excited for that one.
You should cosplay as various war criminals. That'd be good.
I can't wait to see the Henry Kissinger cosplay.
It'd be amazing.
I'm going to be laying in the coffin when I do that. I'm just saying.
Her 75-year-old George W. Bush accidentally slipping up about Iraq on stage.
Oh, no, yeah.
Don't throw a shoe at me.
I can cosplay as the ghost of the Iraqi children that he killed.
Have you seen that Onion article that's like Bush unveils new pictures of dog's friends, ghost of Iraqi child that follows him around everywhere?
Yeah. I'm a big Onion supporter, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that it, Andy? Did we
No,
mention
because
YouTube?
we need to plug some Conan.
Oh yeah, my shit.
Conan. Nor have we plugged Mike, so we'll get there. We'll put some plugs in him.
God, this bit. I know it's not that long. It seems so long.
Okay, yeah, and I also added a bit today, and it was a bit serious. So yeah.
It's easier when we can just interrupt you freely. It's great.
Exactly. Like but like you're not interrupted during protonic reversal.
Exactly, because
which you had. You know what? I've had such a crazy week this week. I can't remember who your guest was.
Mike Kunka from Godhead Silo in Enemy Mining Dead Low Tide, and that was a really great episode. We're actually breaking up the podcast into 2 because we went 3 hours, which is nothing for Kristina, but for me, it's a long time. And Damon Shea episode. I appreciate that about you. Damon Shea episode still going strong as well. And there's no Protonic next week, but we're splitting up the Mike Kunka episode into 2.
Yeah, well, next week I'll just come up with something from the archive to pitch to people.
There you go. I'll be on tour, so I'm not worried about Protonic.
Okay. And if you want to get some music, any tour dates? Yeah, what's your
next week, Indianapolis, Louisville, Nashville, Atlanta, Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends with Service. You can go neutronfriendsbandcamp.com is probably the best way for that. We're doing a Twitter takeover of the Scene Point Blank page, so that'll be interesting. I'm like, do you know what you're asking for? Okay.
And also at that website, Bandcamp, you can get albums. Let's just
music. Yeah,
you should take over and tweet out your thoughts on terraforming.
I was going to tweet out my thoughts on famous war criminals, but some lighthearted tour banter.
Yes. But Conan also has a Patreon, and if you join his Patreon, you get Protonic Reversal a day early.
Yep. In some cases, multiple days early, because that's the whole point of it. I don't want people hassling me for when's the show going to be up. It is up if you pay $1.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh no, I'll wait. All right.
Damn.
You gonna mention the video? You gonna mention the video?
I was going to right after I mentioned subscribe to Protonic Reversal on YouTube, which we need to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you seem to not want to get there.
We're at 1,100. We crossed that.
You somehow crossed it over 100 people in like a day. I noticed that last night.
I was bitching about it on like the show last week, and like I think it already had crossed 1,000. I just wasn't paying attention. So
okay, it was like right on the line last time. So yeah. No, it's great.
Don't worry, I was real busy complaining about it.
All right,
but then there's also the music video.
I'm gonna play your music video at the very end of.
I thought you were gonna say you're gonna play Andy out for the.
No, fuck it, we're gonna do it live.
But I wanna. I mean, well. Mike, if you have anything to plug,
that would actually be an amazing bit, just like how they do at the Oscars, where the music starts swelling up. And you're like, I'm doing
that.
They'd have to physically cut for me to stop plugging.
I'll just start talking louder.
You can catch me at Central Committee on Twitch.tv, where we talk about politics every day. We do the morning shift, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. So if you need somebody early in the morning for your commute or when you're settling in, I've got a great show for that. Talk politics.
Hey, I stream at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, it is what it is.
Fight.
Yeah. Well, we could have a fight later.
Let's start some beef for no reason.
Behind
I have a Twitter, Mike from PA. I don't believe in brand continuity, so people are like, oh yeah, I didn't even realize that was you. And I have a YouTube where I occasionally post some highlights from my stream, very high effort stuff at Mike from PA on YouTube. So check all that out, and hope to see you there. We talk about news, politics, philosophy, history, popular culture, and how that intersects with organizing and the left.
I am following right now because I'm going to forget otherwise.
Good move.
Yeah, and just call us a Majority Report are always fantastic. So if you like stuff on Majority Report, definitely check out his show.
Yeah, I was there. I was on I called in the Majority Report a couple weeks ago for the Pennsylvania primaries, which were probably the best in the country. Why has Pennsylvania got better politics than California? What's going on? We have a socialist just won the congressional seat in Pittsburgh. We have a pretty left-wing senatorial candidate, and you guys have Dianne Feinstein, and
Dianne Feinstein has choked out 4 generations of progressives from even attempting for that seat.
It's crazy.
By the way, can we say that we're going to be covering milk and talking all through?
Speaking of Feinstein, at the end of the month.
Well, I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, isn't it kind of disgusting that she is where she is because she happened to be the person to announce the assassination of Harvey Milk and the mayor? And
that's also why she is where she is. The mentor of the guy that killed fucking Harvey Milk in the film. He was the guy who trained him to be on the fucking city council, which is
it's crazy because I really hate her. And in her recent interview, she talked about how she spoke positively about him in a recent interview about the assassin.
His biggest character flaw was he liked Twinkies too much.
Let's put it this way. So I've lived in Wisconsin since 2017, which is a whole separate conversation. But I grew up in California. I have never once voted for her. And I'm still amazed that progressives just, even with top two, still couldn't get it together. And I just, look, Katie Porter, run for Senate. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there's, yeah, so anyway, I like to talk
like
politics.
100,000 years old. Yeah, well,
I'm a politics freak, so
save it for the after party. Everyone can join on that.
Definitely.
And, that'll be great. No, well, the problem is, we'll talk about that. You should have seen Vice, man. I was the one getting all animated. I was like, anytime you bring me into the Bush era, like it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, I had a headache afterwards. Anyway. So those are all your
that's the stuff, and various other projects as I pick them up and forget to complete them.
One of those projects should be coming back on this show because I really enjoyed having you on.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate
we're
it.
definitely going to have you on Bad Takes in the future. We'll
and make sure that
save that for your time.
Hopefully we can work it out again. And
maybe I should
will be
actually
feeling
plug
better.
my stuff.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh yeah, you don't actually have any of your plugs in it, and it's like 20. It's like it feels like 30-minute long bit too, but you don't.
I know, and I never plug my stuff
because you're still giving, Andy.
Yes,
you're still giving.
Oh, that's a shame. All right, well, on to the after.
On to final thoughts, anyway.
Can I go first?
See, Mike gets the show. Mike gets the show.
No, he caught on fast. But Kristina, since you picked it, let's hear your final thoughts. I don't even remember what movie we're talking about. So
exactly, this is the problem with this episode. So we talked about the Suicide Squad, probably the greatest DC EU film ever. I'm sorry, Justice League sucked. I'm sorry, Snyderverse sucks. Suck it. Anyway, this film is phenomenal. I love everything about it. Casting, directing, the tone, the music, just everything. They really knew how to do a nitty-gritty black comedy, action, super villain-ish, superhero-ish film with characters that are relatable, characters that are funny, characters that have heart and soul. I really do like the idea of expanding the Suicide Squad verse with like the Peacemaker TV series on HBO.
Really great show, and I was as shocked as anyone about that.
Love it.
That show was amazing.
I do hope that maybe James Gunn can redeem some characters from the first Suicide Squad movie, like Deadshot, perhaps. Like
what's Will Smith up to? Slapping people?
Yeah. But
he's gonna come back as a different character, Dead Slap.
When it comes to rating this film,
that's good.
I give it 11 out of 10 javelins.
Are you sure you can joke about the most serious event to ever happen when someone got slapped at the Oscars? I mean, that's very serious shit.
Our comedians are under attack. Okay?
Artists are under attack. Comedians can't even make jokes anymore.
Jimmy Dore is afraid to leave his house.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
Yeah. I mean, between the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial and the slap, I mean, are we living in history or what?
I love it.
It really is.
They say the next ones will be dropped by an Amber Heard. It really makes you feel like you're.
I've opted to replace her as Mir, and I think I could do a pretty damn good job at it. I'll actually have chemistry with Jason Momoa.
There you go. So Hollywood, take note.
But Mike, you got some final thoughts on this?
I think that we desperately need more films like this in American culture. And hopefully one will be brave enough to take the position that American forces are the baddies outright. Even the foot soldiers, that would be fun to see. And I really enjoyed the film for a lot of things, a lot of aspects. Most importantly, like having some interesting visuals, somewhat daring plot. We need more films like this, and hopefully we get them because American culture, Top Gun Maverick sucked. I'm sorry. So I'm really glad to see this, and hopefully, like with James Gunn, with these type of films, with this type of content, I'm always interested in seeing how like people actually manage to incorporate it into their own personal fandoms. Like, are people going to be cosplaying as the generals, as the Nazi doctor? Like, how is this going to enter popular culture? How are people going to like incorporate it into their consumption habits? And that's what's always funny to me about content like this. Like, are people going to be pretending to be the Nazi guy? Probably.
If they're out of Morbius costumes.
Yeah, the Morbius costumes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, that's another cultural touchstone that we're all going to remember when we saw it the first time.
We're definitely going to remember it next week for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think like jumping off of the original point though, I like kind of the bleakness of realizing at the end of it that like nobody's gonna know anything about this because they're not taking this to the press. Like, so the only story that comes out is like Corto Maltese has free and fair elections for the first time. Like, and then it seems like it's some kind of like, you know, PR coup for America at that point. Like,
and you see Bloodsport like shooting Starro and you know, which his daughter gets to have that like moment, which is
that's
my
dad.
Americans were there.
What I find interesting. Yeah, I just had a thought that I should have expressed during the show. But what I find interesting is like the underlying plot of like how they have this dictator family that gets overturned by a military coup that's anti-American, but not popularly supported. And it's like, has this ever happened? Like, is that actually reality? Like, they wanted to be able to shoot like these, you know, Latin American soldiers and kind of just turn them into cannon fodder. But the idea that there would be an anti-American military that was also, you know, replaced a dictator that was pro-American doesn't really like square. Like, how does that even work?
Well, this is the DC universe where Quran, I believe is the name of the country, is very powerful in the Middle East. So they were able to fund those guerrillas.
Yeah, and so like, you know, because in reality, like when this type of stuff happens, like in Portugal, they had a fascist government for the longest time that had left-wing military officers overturn it, and the moment they started to like attack the dictatorship, they were immediately joined on the streets by the people. It's called the Carnation Revolution, and so the idea that you'd have that distinction, I found that really interesting in the film. Like they wanted to make these guys anti-American, but also at the same time have that truthful statement about how these dictatorships are always supported by the U.S. And so I don't know. That's the type of stuff I love about the film.
They also kind of leaves the door open with the whole flag thing, where he's like, "I'm a soldier. I didn't get in here to serve my country." You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't want to be its puppet.
Yeah. So like it does kind of leave the door.
You're a special forces guy. Of course you did.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that those are small things. I really do hope that this kind of movie expands further. And I think that, you know, at a time when I think Americans are more uneducated about their own system of, you know, government and their own system of like even to the point where we kind of like a lot of people don't even admit that this is like an empire. You know what I mean? Like,
well, actually, it's I mean, Americans violently rebel against learning about their own country. That's what the whole anti-CRT thing is. It's like, I demand to remain in ignorance because I don't want to know. You know, I demand that you don't teach my children about the way the world really is because we're living in this kind of blissful ignorance. And if you try to teach people about what we're doing as an empire and how damaging it is to the world and ourselves, they violently rebel against that. The very idea of learning the truth is something that is like dangerous. And that is a really powerful strain in American politics, which hopefully this movie could play a small part in like undermining.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Conan?
Look, I said it before. I think this film is top shelf malevolent fun. There's a lot of grim slogs out there, a lot of joyless toil in the movie world. And this manages to be both smart and just kind of relentlessly madcap. You know, the humor's pitch black. The social commentary, as we've talked about, is surprisingly cogent, albeit like maybe like on the lighter side. I said gateway drug, and I stand by it, which I think is hilarious. And once again, all praise to Margot Robbie for basically through the course of a few movies for transforming a also ran second stringer into a particularly compelling and iconic career highlight for a good actress. I don't think everything lands plot wise in this, but it doesn't matter. It's so gleefully just propulsive in everything it does that it's hard not to acknowledge that it's a fun film and a great time at the movies. And it's surprisingly subversive, which is an overutilized term, because of that and because of how it's made. And yeah, I hope that like we get more movies like this. You know, I would be more into like dangerous kind of like crazy stuff. Again, like we mentioned, the Taika Waititi Thors and stuff like that. Great, make them actual films. It can
Which we
you
didn't
can
mention
make a comic movie
he's
film.
in this as her
He
father.
is as the
Yeah,
we mentioned that earlier as Ratcatcher 1, right? But here's a fun fact. I don't know how fun it is. As much as I'm a big comics guy, I've never been a big DC guy. So honestly, I don't even know most of the characters. But I loved all of them, even the ones that got murked, like, you know, like Saving Private Ryan style, right as like the boat landed, and you know, that's something to be said. That even the Michael Rooker character, who was established as a total cock in the first scene, like at the time you're like, oh man, like, oh he's come on man, pay attention to the column, you're gonna get your head blown up, you know, like it's amazing to pull off those kinds of things and to show rather than tell. I'm so sick of movies telling me how to feel and not bothering to show it and showing something garishly stupid instead. So this is the right kind of stupid. And it's a lot of fun. And I think this is a great movie. And I'm super glad that we covered it. Is this the first superhero movie that we've covered? I think it might be, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
As I mentioned, it's a super villain movie. It's not a superhero movie. So the first to
Multiverse
come.
of Madness is next.
There you go. I mean, and I appreciate.
I am never going to watch the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, you will.
I appreciate Christina's steadfast determination to push this forward. And as you know, I backed it all the way, and I'm glad to be vindicated because this is a good film, and it's better than I'd say it's better than any right to be, but it has a right to be great. And I'm stoked on it. So glad we covered it.
All right, Andy. Names are just letters. Let's hear the final thoughts, and then we'll jump to Conan's music video, and then
TDK. It stands for me.
Hey, the detachable kid. What the fuck?
That's amazing. The detachable kid,
and then just the arms just going out there.
it's so you. That's one of you. That's where you really again are shown the fact that like these aren't just like the B list. These are like the C list of like villains and stuff.
James Gunn called them the Z list. He's like, these are Z list. These are Z list villains.
I love it.
Which
because you see the arms just like slapping people, and you're like, why is this guy in a firefight? Like you didn't give him a gun? Like at least, like Jesus Christ, he's slapping people.
I mean, fun fact about that. Gerald Jones, the creator of Arm Fall Off Boy, which is the original name, was not credited.
It was actually worse. Amazing.
That's a better name. What do you mean? Love that name.
But the reason why they left his name off this movie, which was not covered in the press like it should be, is Gerald Jones is in prison for pedophilia. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're saying the character was created by no one.
He wrote one of the best books on comic book history too, which pisses me off because I freaking love the book and he's a detestable human being.
That sucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and on that note, good show, everybody.
But I do want to say this is what comic book movies should be: ignoring the pedophiles, telling a visually interesting story that's actually a good movie, and taking it from one medium, which is a comic book, and then transforming it to fit for another medium, which is a feature film. And fuck the Zack Snyder fans, because just because you capture every single moment in the comic book just right or whatever, and still fucking it up like he always does, it actually it gets the essence boiled down to it, but sent out to the world as the medium that you're watching. There you go. Forrest, take it away.
All right. Well, this is Conan's new music video, and then we'll be off and we'll be to the after party. So I'll put the after party link in the chat too. But this is Conan's Dark Passengers music video, and then we'll see you in the after party.
This is very weird for me, but thank you.
to handle. Got so much to say, got so much to do, but just wanna fade away. All I can do sometimes is look back and shame those pathetic hustles, those insignificant days. 20 years and counting, memory fades. Still screaming outside the airlock, still punching in a daze. Weight of this misery, the choices I made. This life's catching up with me, darkness invades. Dark messages, they always take me for a ride. Dark messages, ones that turn the inside. Dark messages, they always take me for a ride. Dark messages, ones that turn the inside. To define me like a picture with no frame. I show just relentless uplift for most of my dreams. Episode of Black Mirror, this darkness has a name. Oh, a red bed string as I navigate the maze. I'll check for the soul, suffering and pain. This is its poison, always the same. Perhaps everyone would be better off if I just went away. Too simply stated, those words are not today. Dark messages.